Welcome to Awesome Movie Year, the podcast where we take a look back at an awesome year for movies, which is every year. I'm Josh Bell, film critic and writer, and I'm joined by my co-host.
Jason Harris, filmmaker, comedian, and meow.
Dave's got an actual cat that he is bringing to the recording here.
I hope it bites his neck.
Yeah,
probably will.
Dangerous proposition there. So, in this season of Awesome Movie Year, we have been talking about the films of 1971, and we are here at our producer David Rosen's cat-related pick. Dave, what did you pick?
I picked The Corpse Grinders.
You sure did. And what a pick it was.
Yeah, you've now made it so we are not allowed to give you a pick ever again.
I feel like, Jason, this is not the first time you've said that. And
I know. Well, that was on the draft episode. You know, we give Dave the freedom to participate. And it's our own fault, Josh. We tell him not to touch the hot stove, but he keeps burning us with it. So.
I feel like you had much more anger toward this movie than I did, even though I would agree with you that it is not a good movie, but maybe an interesting one to talk about, and one that has some strong connections to our hometown of Las Vegas here. Although this movie itself is not a Las Vegas production, it comes from director Ted V. Mikels, who is a sort of B-movie exploitation cinema legend who moved to Las Vegas in 1986 and established his movie studio here in 1993 and was a fixture of the Las Vegas local scene in the later part of his life. So I have some affinity for Ted Mikels, even though his movies are not good.
Did you ever do a story or interview him?
I did, yeah. I mean, maybe we'll talk more about this later, but I did one time in 2004. I went to his studio. He had a physical studio space that he worked out of, and in one of the warehouse districts somewhere. And I went there. I interviewed him, and he was really nice, and he was a fun, weird, eccentric guy. I remember I would encounter him at other local film events or festivals and things like that. And I think that's the thing, much like, I don't know that we've talked about Albert Pune on this podcast before.
We did, because of Streets of Fire.
There you go, right. Streets of Fire, he made that sort of quasi-sequel to Streets of Fire. Of course, yeah, and we had an interview with him on that podcast. And he also made a lot of really bad movies, but was a really nice guy and came to Vegas and kind of flourished as part of our local scene. So I have affinity for those people.
Well, I'll tell you what I just learned, that we don't just have a single, but multiple warehouse districts in Las Vegas, based on your quote, Josh. So
yeah, there's lots of little warehouse areas. Maybe not a whole district, but certain streets that are designated.
Yeah, I think it must have been probably Russell and Valley View back then is probably where it was at. But when doing research on Ted Mikels, before that, he lived in California in a house that he retrofitted to look like a castle. And he basically had a harem live with him.
Yeah, and he was one of these guys where by the time I met him, he was older, certainly, but he definitely looked like he could have been in Boogie Nights or something like that. You know, he had this curled, very like waxed curled mustache and goatee, and he had his hair was long and white hair, but was long in a ponytail, and he would always wear this giant boar's tooth necklace. And I mean, really, Jason, he kind of looked like a fashion icon for you. I feel like in your fashion.
Unbelievable. Dave, I'm bald. I don't wear animal related necklaces. I feel like the way you described him, he sounds more like he's out of like a Vincent Price movie or something.
Yeah, a little bit, but I feel like you like that kind of 70s sleazeball style, and he definitely had that going on. Maybe a bit.
Thank you.
With the Vincent Price style. I'm not saying it in a negative way. It was very endearing, and he was one of those guys where he was very recognizable. If you went to a film festival or something, And
Yeah.
there was Ted Michaels. And
to take your backhanded compliment and front-hand it.
We're saying you're a weirdo, Jason.
Yeah, that I'll take.
That way.
Yeah,
I'm a weirdo.
And also,
we're all weirdos here.
Absolutely.
The idea of someone, willing to show themselves and their style, even though it's iconoclastic, that is definitely something I fit with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that extended to what he did as a filmmaker. And you had to respect what he was doing because he was always doing exactly what he wanted to do in his own weird ass way. And I applaud that. And he also came here and gave jobs to UNLV film students and other aspiring filmmakers, aspiring actors. He was very open and very generous and welcoming with people, no matter what their level of experience. And that's a great thing too.
Yeah, I mean, my only story is, and I hope I'm remembering this correctly, I studied under the greatest acting coach out here in Las Vegas, Joseph Bernard. And there was a rival acting coach who was, one, not a good actor, two, not a good acting coach, three, not a good person. And I just remember him, like, anytime he could trash anybody, he would trash someone. And he used to, be the guy to like trash Ted Michaels, like, oh, he can't even finish a movie anymore. It's like, dude, the guy's old. And we know our friend Drew Marvick, who's a local filmmaker, was at one point going to finish one of the movies that Michaels couldn't make. I guess the lesson is be careful who you get into bed with, so to speak, because unlike the image that Ted Michaels was presenting, like you said, he was a seemingly wonderful guy with a lot of friends, but there are a lot of sleazeballs out here who will take advantage of him.
That's true. And I mean, the thing is that he was finishing movies all the way until the end of his life. I mean, the reason he didn't finish that final movie is because he died. So I don't really
it's hard to finish a movie after you die.
I don't think you can really criticize him for that. I mean, he was dedicated to doing, to working on films all the way into his 80s. And despite having no resources, just like when he was first starting out. And so I think it's really the opposite of what that person was complaining about.
I mean, if he was ever going to get a resource, it would be from this movie, which he said is the only one that has ever made him money.
Yeah, this is, I think, was his 7th feature film. So he'd been working on low budget exploitation type films for a while. But this one, according to an interview I found from 1973, in the Oregonian, where they also were touting him as a hometown hero because he grew up in Oregon. He claimed that at that point, the Corpse Grinders had grossed $4 million on its budget of just $48,000. And so that's impressive. And later on, he claimed it had grossed perhaps up to $10 million. And I found when I interviewed him in 2004, he said, so much money was made by theaters and drive-ins and so on with that movie, they couldn't keep it all. They had to send me some. They couldn't hide it all. So
nice. That's exciting. Good job. That's a young Josh Bell muckraking there, getting to the bottom of corporate greed, Dave. And the intersection of art and commerce.
So true. Yeah, I think I looked at that interview, the transcript I have of it, and he was a very talkative, forthcoming guy. I don't know that I was the greatest interviewer, but he had plenty to say at that time. And it was an interesting conversation with him. So this movie was successful. And I feel like, as we've talked about a number of times during this season with movies like A Bay of Blood, that the drive-in culture was flourishing at this time. And so, and as well as grindhouse theaters. And so you had movies like this that could play over and over again, sometimes retitled. This one I don't believe was ever retitled, but they would be recirculated. And again, that interview from the Oregonian is from 1973, and the movie is still being circulated. It played for a long time on a triple bill with The Embalmer and The Undertaker and His Pals, and even had a kind of William Castle style gimmick where if you saw that triple bill, you had to sign an affidavit that absolved the movie theater of responsibility if you died of fright while watching these movies.
This feels like it should have been a cinematic universe. You have an embalmer, you have an undertaker and his friends, and you have corpse grinders. I mean, they all fit together, don't they?
Right. They do. Well, that's, I'm sure, why they put them on a bill together, even though they're entirely unrelated and from like a period of 5 years that they span that they were initially released.
I mean, I personally love the kind of, hey, kids, let's put on a show nature of this genre. But there's plenty of terrible movies, including this one. So, I just wish that some of them were a little better, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I like that aspect of it as well. And I think there are other movies from this genre, from this era, that are more entertaining. I think this movie, like a lot of Ted Mikels movies, you read the title, you read the premise, and you think that's so ridiculous. That'll be so fun and campy, and it really isn't.
The title's a 5-star title, that's for sure.
And the idea here that this cat food company is using corpses to cheaply make their cat food and thus turning cats into, human flesh craving monsters or whatever is a great idea. And it just is executed in the most boring way possible.
And I think we've kind of touched on this maybe with the Bay of Blood, but this kind of really crescendos with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where you're taking this, like we said, DIY film project and this kind of really dark, gruesome story. And Tobe Hooper, just one of the all-time great independent / just films in general, really nails that tone and what you want out of it.
Yeah, Texas Chainsaw is great. And Texas Chainsaw is scary. It's genuinely terrifying.
Yes.
And I don't think these movies have to be. Again, I don't go into a Ted Mikels movie thinking, oh, I'm going to be scared. But it would be nice, if you're not going to be scared, to be able to be entertained and amused. And there's very little of that, I think, in this movie. So it was, however, I think it's always also interesting to look back on these movies that seem so tame to us now, but were regarded as like dangerous or whatever. And for its UK release, it was censored. They cut 10 minutes out of it, which is, it's already a very short movie. They cut it down from 72 minutes to 62 minutes in order for it to be approved to be released in the UK. So
a pre-video nasty, Josh.
Exactly. Yeah. Before video, but still they had to do that. Maybe they had to cut out all the corpse grinding, make it really pointless. I don't know. Because it's not very explicit. I mean, I feel like there's probably one shot that they reuse over and over again of the like corpse paste coming out of the grinding machine that I'm sure was like Play-Doh or whatever it was. But it's just so abstracted that it doesn't even really register as being gory.
Dave, have you ever eaten corpse paste?
I mean, I would. It would probably be keto. So.
I bet you've eaten paste just in general, though.
Or cat food. Dave, have you eaten cat food?
Not cat food, but I did used to love dog jerky when I was a little kid.
What about paste, though?
Paste? I don't remember eating paste.
I could see you taking one of those wooden popsicle sticks where you're supposed to, get the paste out and put it on the construction paper. And little Dave in his karate gi is just licking the paste.
I could see it too. I think it would be pretty tasty.
In fact, Dave, knowing you, I think your mom might have eaten paste while she was pregnant.
Oh, man, you're really like piling it on there, Jason. That's unnecessary.
Oh, whatever, Josh.
Just
we're
trying
all
to
friends.
get us to watch a fun movie about corpse grinding.
Well, he picked a not fun movie about corpse grinding instead.
So, although this was a box office success, it was not a critical success. It took a lot of effort to find any critics who had reviewed this movie. I waded through a lot.
Nothing from Kevin Thomas in the LA Times?
Not that I could find. I was thinking that because I remember how you said that Tarantino labeled him like the Grindhouse reviewer, but I waded through so many like listings and ads in the newspaper archives trying to find articles. So it's possible he did review it and I just couldn't find it.
Now, before you go on, Josh, I just want to take a moment for the audience to appreciate the work that you put in to Awesome Movie Year. You hear that, guys? You hear what he's doing? How he's wading through all this just to give you that meat that will not be ground up in a corpse grinding machine, but just to add this color, this important touchstone moment to our podcast.
Well, thank you. Yeah, usually it's not as difficult, and I'm not always subscribed to that archive, but I happen to be right now, so I took advantage of it. But of course, Variety which would review anything that was released in any capacity, did run a very short, terse review. They said, "The Corpse Grinders is a chiller for smaller situations with a taste for gory action. Film carries enough blood to satisfy any cravings for this type of divertissement, but it's a cheapie in every respect. Most of the chills are in the factory where bodies, supplied by a cemetery caretaker, are fed into a machine and the product comes out feline puree. Ted V. Mikels, who produced and directed, manages a few horror shots which may be exploited."
Divertissement, you say?
Yeah, divertissement.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, like Josh, you already alluded to it. Like, the title's The Corpse Grinders, which I don't think was the title when he bought the screenplay. And then he changed it, if I'm not mistaken, or at least he changed the content of it. But with the Corpse Grinders, you want more of the icky and the yucky in there.
Yeah, I mean, I will say there is a lot of corpse grinding in this movie. It just all kind of looks boring. Again, it's that exact same shot of the slop kind of tumbling out into this little bucket or whatever, and you see the bodies go into the machine or whatever, but they don't. There's no blood and guts and gore really. And I think if you're going to see a movie like this, you want that.
And why not expand this business? You've already ground these corpses. How about some sausage casing? We could make corpse sausage.
Sure. Well, they're doing so well with the cat food.
And
also,
like it's time. Yeah.
But it's hard for them to keep up with the demand just for the cat food. I mean, that's kind of what's driving the plot. They constantly need more corpses. They can't expand their business at this point. And they can't even keep up with the cat food demand.
You know how you get more corpses is taking advantage of the mentally challenged man and murdering him.
That's what they do. That is exactly what they're not good people. I feel like that's clear here, that these guys who run this, they're unscrupulous business people. Is what we get out of this.
Yeah, you would think that the people who are going to grind up corpses and put it into the cat food would have some business ethics, but here they don't, Josh.
No, they really don't. They really don't. So Scott Kane in the Atlanta Journal wrote about that entire triple bill along with the embalmer and the undertaker and his pals. And he said, "The picture tumbled from a plateau of mere bad taste into the depths of vulgarity by showing the bodies being fed into a grinder, from which the result oozed into a slop pail of all things. The plot left so many questions dangling that I tried to put the whole thing out of my mind. Though I would never have imagined it beforehand, the Corpse Grinders seemed elegant by comparison with the Undertaker and his pals." Who knows what that movie's like.
Dave, I think you know the next movie you have to watch.
Yeah, I think I need to go in a time machine and go back to that triple feature.
Well, I mean, Dave, eventually we'll have the epilogue coming up, so it would be great if you watch The Undertaker and his pals and the embalmer before, so you could report on that for us.
I believe they are both available to stream. I looked that up. So,
Dave, I think you can do it. I really do. The only other note that I have on this review is slop bucket greater than slop pail.
Yeah, I suppose.
It's the rule of comedy, the K sound, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, he's a film critic, not a comedian. So finally, Andrew Reschke in the Syracuse Herald Journal had a lot of hate for this movie. He said, "Sometimes you see a film so poor, you have a hard time putting into words your feelings toward the film. The Corpse Grinders is a case in point. There is a variety of reasons why this film rates this dubious honor. If the plot isn't enough reason, then the acting should suffice. There just isn't any. The characters, played by some acting school rejects apparently, are as stiff as the corpses that are fed into the grinder. In keeping with the failures of acting and story, the film also flunks in technical aspects. The production was obviously low budget, but this was amateurish. The lighting is terrible, with much of the action taking place in near total darkness, although this may be beneficial to the viewer. The dialogue is cliche-filled, and the editing must have been done with scissors and paste."
Paste.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, I mean, the acting's terrible. I don't know why he's looking for plot holes, because that would involve like a coherent type of plotting of some. So this is what I was thinking, Josh. The I wonder if you thought, or if this makes sense to you. We had a friend out here who was a really weird avant-garde filmmaker, Tom Barnt. And I thought if he could have material like this, he would do something really unique and crazy and fun with it. That's what I was thinking when watching this.
Yeah, that would probably be cool. And I feel like that's one thing that Ted Michaels also did late in his career, is that he allowed these kind of independent filmmakers to take his IP, like Corpse Grinders or Astro Zombies, and run with it. And I feel like if Tom Barton had come to Ted Michaels and said, I want to make a Corpse Grinders movie, he probably could have done that. And that would have been cool.
This Ted Michaels is a real Stephen King.
Yeah, he's quite generous with all of the valuable intellectual property that he owns. But I did want to say, in that Andrew Reschke review, after he spends all this time trashing the movie, he notes, however, that the theater where he saw the movie was completely full. So
there you go.
This movie,
which is interesting because we think of it as a drive-in movie, right?
Right.
So when I watched it, I thought, like, if you were a teenager in like 71, this would be the movie you picked so you could go and bang in the backseat of your car.
Right, because you don't need to pay attention to the movie.
No, you just bang.
Right.
Harder to do in a movie theater. Not impossible, but harder.
Yeah. I mean, I think this did play in a lot of drive-ins, and I don't know if that triple bill, I mean, those like a triple bill seems like it would be at a drive-in. Although, again, that other article from the Atlanta Journal, he mentions going to an indoor theater to see those three movies.
Well, yeah, and there were a lot of double bills in traditional movie theaters in the 70s also.
Yeah. So, but I think it was definitely a drive-in thing, as Ted Michaels mentioned when I did that interview with him. And that's something where it allowed it to play longer, I think, because drive-ins always needed lots of programming. So,
and I need to go bang in a movie theater. I've never done that, but that's a goal coming up.
All right. We'll take a break so you can go do that. But, Jason, had you seen this or any Ted Michaels films before?
No, I have not. First introduction. I mean, we obviously living in Vegas, luminary Ted Michaels. I even remember when I remember when you were writing about him. Josh is very good at finding these kind of under the radar kind of alt artists, filmmakers, and bringing some light to them. So, Josh, you have contributed to society.
Oh, thank you.
Dave, not so much. But Josh, you have. But so this is nice that we're getting to talk about another Vegas filmmaker, and one wonders why there isn't more of a film scene out
here. Yeah, well, I mean, I like that he came here like Albert Pune and with this openness. Like, I think in both cases, they probably moved here simply because it was cheaper to live here than in LA, and it was cheaper to make movies here than in LA. But in arriving here, they decided to embrace the local film community, to work with people behind the scenes and in front of the camera. Both of them did this extensively and give people chances to work on films. Both also got very involved in like the local film festival scene. Ted Michaels would be at our friend Chad Clinton Freeman, his former festival with Polygrind. I saw the Corpse Grinders 3 at VIFF, the Vegas Independent Film Festival, run by Derek Stonebarger. And so I like that about Ted Michaels. I had seen a handful of his films before this, mostly for writing purposes. I have seen the Astro Zombies, which is one of his big early films, along with Corpse Grinders. I saw Astro Zombies 3, I believe it was, one of his
How could you miss the second one and just know?
I mean, I think I watched it one time because I was doing kind of a local film roundup or whatever, and it happened to be when that was being released. And I have seen, in terms of his later films, also his final completed film, Paranormal Extremes: Text Messages from the Dead, which is another amazing title and is a really, really, really boring movie.
Josh, I have a question for you because, we often touch on the tropes of B movies, and you've seen more Ted Michaels movies than me, who has seen this one. And in this one, the titillation is like underwear, but these movies, I think this sexploitation aspect the nudity is part of the charm of these movies. Or are the other ones, do they have more nudity as in any nudity?
Nope, they don't. That was just not, I mean, it was just, maybe some lingerie or bikinis or whatever, but I haven't seen every single one. I was tempted to try and watch Blood Orgy of the She-Devils this week as a supplemental viewing, but I did not. And that sounds like a movie that would have nudity in it, but I don't know.
I just like the touchstones of this genre. We want gratuitous nudity. We want total, extreme kills and gore. And I want it all in there. I want this. This is a maximalist genre to me.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that is the thing that my lesson from having seen a handful, and he made a ton of movies, and I've only seen a small number of them, but my takeaway is generally that the titles and premises promise something a lot more lurid than what he actually delivers, because even though he may have lived in a castle with a harem, he was kind of a weirdly wholesome guy. And
right. He did say of his harem, he's like, I mean, I took care of them. I cooked. I paid the bills. None of them were required to sleep in a bedroom with me. The only requirement is they weren't allowed to bang other dudes.
Yeah, I mean, that is a little...
I mean, who knows if they were even banging him? I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think as his films go, they are not as grimy as they could be, or sleazy, let's say. They are grimy. This movie is very grimy. Everything looks dirty, like physically dirty in this film. Like somebody needs to bring in a duster.
It's like when I go to Reno and I'm like, this city needs a bath.
So, Dave, you picked this. Had you seen this before?
I had not. And I was trying to remember if there are any Ted B. Mikels films that I saw, probably at Polygrind or maybe at VIF, like you said. Maybe I was at that screening, but it's a long time ago. I don't remember. These movies, they almost always don't live up to what I expect out of them. And so I really figured this might just be a terrible one that all three of us hate, but I had fun with it, and I'm happy to say that. So,
well, I'm happy that you say that too, because you did pick it, and it's nice that you could enjoy your own pick. So
maybe we got to put like some guardrails, like Dave, you can make a pick, but it can't involve cats or something like that.
Oh, that's true. This is the second bad cat movie that Dave has picked. I feel like Dave's pick needs to be a multiple choice. Like when we do the audience choice, we give Dave options.
We have to vet Dave's picks, you know.
Didn't I try to do that once where I was like, guys, should I pick this or this? And you're like, no, it's your pick, Dave.
Right.
Go
we
ahead.
always want you to pick what you want to pick.
I agree. And I'm glad we're talking about this movie. So, Dave, did you get a chance to meet Ted Mikels at any of those events? Do you remember?
I probably did, because I do remember him as the character, like the way you described him, and with the mustache and all that stuff. So I'm sure I probably met him at Polygrind or VIF. And I mean, his reputation for anyone who loves like B schlocky movies, like, you know, he's beloved.
He is. And beyond, I mean, we were talking a lot about him being a Vegas guy, but he is well known in that realm far beyond Vegas.
Yeah.
Josh, you know, you talked about his style and how it, you know, kind of gave you a sense of something I might like. But I feel like what you're saying, you know, Dave owns a record store now. Dave should really lean into this style.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Ted Mikels and Rich Rosen would get along. I think they might have some enjoyable chats. But
I'm sure
Ted, he did run a record label, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
Ted Mikels in his.
I wrote it down because I thought it said Gemini, but it did not say It's Gemini Records, which he basically used to help promote his movies, but he also had like some novelty, I think, singles that did pretty well there. So.
I wonder if you got any of those at Wax Trax, Dave.
Come on down to Rick's Rax Records. You might not have the mustache, but you do have the Ted Mikels records.
Anything else you want to say about the background of this film, Jason?
My son, who I raised and gave love to, stole my business out from under me.
real niche content here. For all the listeners,
a real niche film,
familiar with the goings on at Wax Trax Records.
Oh yeah.
We'll come back and talk more of our general thoughts on the Corpse Grinders. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this episode of our season on the films of 1971, we're talking about our producer Dave's pick, The Corpse Grinders from Ted Mikels. And Dave, why did you like this movie?
I love how stupid the premise is. And like you guys said, look, I'm not going to defend this movie as being like great or anything like that, but the idea of a sleazy, disgusting company grinding up bodies to make cat food, but then of course that makes the cats go crazy, and then biting people makes them, like, the whole concept is beautiful. And as it unfolded, even though it should have been gorier, should have had the nudity Jason wanted, it should have had, like, maybe some more production value. Although of course it didn't, it's a Ted B. Michaels movie. Of course it's not going to have production value, but still, it's such a fun setup. And I still had a lot of fun with just the ideas that were kind of being presented in, like, you could tell in a very like local film, like low budget kind of a way, that like the ideas are there. He's just not quite getting there and making the movie.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's a stupid premise. I think it's a pretty smart premise. Like, hey, we need, for a horror movie type thing, right? Or a grindhouse movie, we need to, we need to create more supplements for our cat food. Oh, we have access to human remains. It almost sounds like an Errol Morris documentary, right?
Sure.
That you could look back on. So.
To be clear, I mean stupid in a good way. I mean, ridiculous.
But I think it's a good twist to have, like, oh, now the cats have, like, quote unquote mad human disease, right? Like, and they're attacking the humans. I just don't think any of it beyond that was executed at all. And that's the real bummer, because I did like that premise. Ted Michaels said when Arch Hall brought the script in, he bought it to him. He bought it on the spot. And he's like, I knew this was the movie for me. And then, of course, I changed a lot. And you wonder, like, is that for the better, the worse, or neither? But I just think it doesn't execute on the promise at all.
Yeah, I agree. It is a fun idea, and it's certainly an idea that has existed. I mean, you could connect it to something like Sweeney Todd or whatever.
Right. He's a demon barber,
right? And making those into Miss whatever her name is meat pies. I think it is a fun idea, and to have it with the cats. But I agree. There's not almost anything fun in the movie itself, and no, I don't expect it to have big production values like you're saying, Dave. Like, obviously not. But I feel like, I mean, especially as someone who watches tons and tons and tons of low budget movies, like, you don't have the production value. You're never going to have the production value. But the thing that doesn't cost money is clever writing, and so you need that, or fun performances, actors who are really into their roles and giving it their all. And I don't necessarily agree with the review that says the acting in this movie is dreadful. I feel like the acting in this movie is actually not that bad, and certainly far better than the acting in a lot of low budget movies that I have seen. But I think there are not enough characters, maybe as they're written or as they're directed, that get to be really wacky. I mean, the wackiest character is the cemetery caretaker's wife, who has this doll that she carries around and treats like it's her child, and they never explain why. And I feel like the movie needed more of that.
Yeah, I mean, I will agree with you that it needed more of that, but I don't think any of the acting was good. So that's where I'll disagree with you. You do want people to, like, lean into this and be like, yo, this is just ridiculous. Let's just go for it. Josh and I recently talked about Frankenstein, the Guillermo del Toro one. And, like, Oscar Isaac is just eating every scene. And that's what I wanted from these performances. Like, just go balls to the wall insane on this thing.
Yeah, I agree. I'm saying the acting isn't terrible, but I mean, it's decent enough acting, but it should be bigger. It should be more over the top. It should be campier. And that's really just not what any of these people are offering. I mean, the villains are not even very villainous. They're so low key, like, oh yeah, we got to do this. Oh, there's so much discussion of, like, paying people's, like, invoices and stuff. I mean, so many things.
It's important stuff, Josh.
It is, but I mean, that's a lot of what drives the plot is like, oh, we got to pay Caleb, the cemetery caretaker, because we owe him all this money for bodies, and we can't hire the hitman to kill new people because we don't have enough money to pay him yet. Like, this is the least important thing that we could be focusing on in this movie. And yet here we are with all that, or the doctor and nurse who are the only people who discover this nefarious plot or whatever, and they go to the food adulteration agency, which I assume is not a real thing, And, it's like whole scenes of like, let's go visit this bureaucratic guy and ask him to do some paperwork so that we can get rid of this company.
And just use exposition to restate the things that we've already learned multiple times over and over again.
Yeah. So that was frustrating. I feel like, were you laughing, Dave? Were there funny things in this movie you thought?
No, I absolutely was laughing. Yeah. And I was, again, and I'll talk about that in a second, but to go back to the idea of like all the kind of slow dialogue and stuff like that about all that bureaucratic stuff, I feel like that's a big thing in horror movies of this era. Like I notice it a lot. Even you go back to something like Dracula, it's like half the movie is him talking about the land deal. It's like there's so much stuff in classic horror that isn't scares and stuff like that.
I mean, that's true, but Dracula is from 40 years earlier than this, so I don't think you can really label it all the same era.
The cheaper it is, the older it seems. So.
But you said there's not a lot of scares. There's no scares in this movie.
Sure. No, there's no scares whatsoever. Absolutely. And I don't think it's meant to be. I think it's meant to be a ridiculous premise that's like done in a stupid kind of silly way. Like that's all I see in this.
See, but I think the problem is that it is a ridiculous premise and it's not done in a stupid, silly way, that Ted Mikels takes his stuff too seriously.
Possibly.
And, he's trying to generate suspense when you've got, again, the doctor and the nurse, and they keep going to the factory. And it's like, are they going to be caught? Are they going to be ground up in the corpse grinding machine? Like we should be worried about their safety because they're the protagonists and they're the good guys or whatever. And there's no suspense to it. There's no tension here whatsoever. And it doesn't have to be scary, but if that's what he's going for, we need at least a little bit of tension.
Yeah, and I don't know what the intention is necessarily. Like, I'm not sure if you're right about that or wrong. I don't really get that there was any intention for this to be scary or suspenseful or anything. I think it's almost like having fun in a genre, basically. Like that's what I see any of these kinds of low budget schlocky movies as, because if any of them are meant to be horror, or like actually scary, like just throw the whole genre out because they're all bad. Like,
there was no fun though.
Jason mentioned Texas Chainsaw. Like you can make a genuinely scary movie on a low budget. And, but I agree. I mean, a lot of them are just like trying to have fun, but I just am not sure that that's what this is aiming for, and if it is, it's failing.
And Texas Chainsaw, as an example, is a genuinely great movie that I think was aiming for being a genuinely great movie. Right. Like there's no mistaking what the intention was there.
Right. And so you can do that on this level.
So Josh, you've seen other Ted Mikels movies. Do you think this is an accurate portrayal of, like, would this be a good sample of like what the tone is of all the other movies that you've seen?
Yes, it is. Yeah. I think, again, I've seen some from this era and then some from the much later era when he was working in Vegas. And those are even slower and less interesting, those films. I feel like he got
as Dave calls them, 5-star masterpieces.
Even further away from the idea of being suspenseful or scary. And I think he's like kind of, I don't know if he thinks he's focused on character development, or I'm not really sure what his idea is. But yeah, I mean, these movies are generally slow and they are, as I keep saying, they're not as titillating as you would think from the way that they're presented, advertised, the title, the premise, posters, etc. And so, yeah, I mean, Astro Zombies is the other big one from this era that I've seen, although it was a while ago that I saw that. And I did recently watched the Mystery Science Theater episode featuring Girl in Gold Boots, which, to be fair, cuts like 17 minutes out of it. And you can't really watch a Mystery Science Theater episode and get a real sense of any movie. But from what I can glean from that, it was a lot of also like just sort of talking around stuff and dead air and a lot of that as well.
I think that, Dave, now that you're a rich businessman, you should give me and Josh the money to make one of these movies.
I may do that, but it'll probably be terrible. And I'll just tell you guys it's good just because I'm your friend.
I accept this all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's a lot of ways, and I feel like there's also filmmakers from this period doing this kind of thing that have made movies probably that were more entertaining to watch than Ted Michaels movies. And I'm not super familiar with all of those people, but I feel like that comes up. Herschel Gordon Lewis is a big one. I know Chad from Polygrind was a big fan, and I don't think I've seen any of his films, but I see him compared to Ted Michaels a lot as someone who's doing this sort of thing, but it's more entertaining to watch. So anything you found redeeming about this movie, Jason?
No. I honestly think, I'm trying to think if we've ever covered a worse movie on this show.
I feel like you say that every time you dislike one of the movies strongly. And
well, yeah, but I mean, I know what I gave this, and you might be right, but that's where I'm at with this one. So,
I will say I really overrated this on Letterboxd, just so you know. I'm not going to change my rating.
Shock.
Like I always do. I'm not going to change my rating. I'm going to keep it. But I will say, though, I genuinely like this more than Bay of Blood.
No, I brought this up to Josh the other day because I did not like Bay of Blood at all. And I rated this just under Bay of Blood, but I won't fight you on that one, Dave.
Yeah.
And Bay of Blood is like, I feel like this is a movie that people enjoy if they enjoy it primarily in that kind of ironic, like this is amusing trash kind of way. Mm-hmm. Whereas Bay of Blood is a movie that is genuinely held up as like a cinematic achievement.
It's insane.
And I didn't like it either. But I mean, Mario Bava is clearly a talented director, and having seen other films of his that are much better, I think, than that, you can see he's got a great visual sense and, gets some of those kinds of over the top performances that we're talking about. Whereas Ted Michaels never got better. Ted Michaels spent no, seriously, he spent like 60 years making movies and never got any better at it.
Yeah.
How can you, Josh?
I mean, it's true. Watch this movie and then watch Text Messages from the Dead, which was made 44 years later. And
Josh, you misinterpreted. How can you get better when you're already at this level is what I'm saying.
So true. I did want to point out one thing that I found amusingly terrible is there's a character, Jason, you pointed out the one like janitor or worker or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I know where you're going. I know exactly where you're going right now.
And he seems a bit mentally challenged. There's another character. There seem to only be two workers at this factory. And the other one is this one-legged woman who walks around on a crutch and is a deaf mute. And the factory owner, the villain, is able to communicate with her via sign language. And the actor is clearly just randomly waving his hands around every time they do the sign language.
Well, I mean, kudos to them for being, equal opportunities and, letting everyone get a chance to work. And maybe they figured out their own form of communication, whether it's not exactly ALS. That's fine. ASL, is it AL? Yeah. What's ALS? Is that a disease?
Disease.
Yeah. We don't want that. No. That's what Lou Gehrig died of.
Yes.
So you don't want that. But, however they communicated in ASL, or, let's say NSL, nonsensical sign language. That works. So.
That's definitely what it was. And I don't know anything about that actress. I assume she probably was not really a deaf mute, but they decided that they wanted to have that just to really emphasize that character's disabilities. But I was watching because at first I was like, oh, they're doing sign language. And then I realized, no, they're not. No, he's just doing, and he just does the same, like the actor isn't even trying. He just does the same hand motions over and over again while he says different stuff.
Well, and I got to dispute, you're saying he's not trying. Maybe he doesn't have the ability to do more than he did. Like this actor is not really digging deeper because there's nowhere deeper to dig for him.
Yeah, maybe no one on the set knew sign language. So what else are you going to do?
Well, I'm sure that's true, but I feel like you could have varied up your motions a little bit, even if it's still nonsense. It's like if you're trying to speak a gibberish language, you don't just say the same word over and over again. You got to make different noises or whatever.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not an actor, okay? I'm not doing it. I just feel
I am an actor, Josh. And clearly they needed Adam Sandler to give him more gibberish in this film.
Yeah. Jason, it's a shame you never had a chance to work with Ted Michaels here in Los
That would have been cool. Or Neil Breen. I think I did audition or sent in like a self-tape for a Neil Breen movie, but never got it. So that shows you where my career is at.
Well, Neil Breen's still making movies, so you still have a shot at that.
Holler at him for me, Josh.
Yeah.
Put in a rec for your
he
man.
Hates me. He does not like me.
He does?
Oh yeah.
Well, that makes me happy.
Because he's like the opposite of Ted Michaels, who was so generous and kind. And I remember asking him about what did he think about his movie being on Mystery Science Theater, and he was like, hey, "It's great. I thought it was funny. People are enjoying the movie." And Neil Breen is just extremely sensitive to anybody saying anything even remotely negative about his films.
So he shouldn't connect with you.
No. Well, and that's how he feels. Believe me, I've heard it from him. So, but he is another Vegas institution.
Well, so why did he do the interview with us if he hates you so much?
Neil Breen didn't do an interview with us. It was Albert Pune who did an interview with us. And Albert Pune was like Ted Michaels, again, a real nice guy, real friendly, real open. And he also passed away a few years ago. But Neil Breen is still alive and still working. And Neil Breen is different because Pune and Michaels started out in the real like Hollywood B-movie world. And Pune even got into the mainstream a little bit, making Captain America. But Neil Breen has only ever lived in Vegas and made his own weird personal low budget films. So he's a bit different in that realm. So don't confuse those. So
I already did. So
you did, late. But I'm trying to unconfuse you.
Thank you for that. I needed it.
Jason, do you want to rate the Corpse Grinders out of 5 ground up corpses?
Yeah, you could have picked 1 ground up corpse for me because that's all I'm giving it.
We should
1
get the scale. Yeah.
And I think I'm only giving it a full 1 because the title's so rad. It's really probably a half of a star, but I gave it 1 ground up corpse, Josh.
I gave it 1.5 ground up corpses. I was mildly amused at times, and I have an affinity for this kind of stuff, even though this is not the greatest example of it. Dave, how many ground up corpses do you give this movie?
I gave it 4 ground up corpses. May have overrated it, maybe because I was watching with my cats and they were being very cute during the movie. That's all I got.
I think that Letterboxd needs to put you in timeout, Dave.
Dave, we'd have to look back and see what movies from this season Dave rated lower than The Corpse Grinder.
Probably just about all of them. I mean, I know he did French Connection.
Yeah, definitely.
Fiddler? Was Fiddler lower?
I think Fiddler was a 4 also.
Okay.
All right. So
as good as Fiddler.
Better than The French Connection, says Dave Rosen.
That's right.
We'll come back and talk about the legacy of The Corpse Grinders. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this episode of our season on the films of 1971, we are talking about producer Dave and his wonderful pick, Ted Michaels' The Corpse Grinders. And even though Jason and I were not positive on this film, it really has become a cult movie. Like, honestly, we could have talked about this movie for our cult classic episode. Like, there are people who enjoy watching this movie over and over again. It's been released in, fancy Blu-ray editions and things like that. And it is one of Ted Michaels' biggest pieces of sort of IP during his Vegas era when he was trying to capitalize on that. He did make The Corpse Grinders 2 in 2000, which I have not seen, but it does sound like it's got a great premise because now the corpse ground cat food has attracted the attention of a race of cat aliens who come to Earth.
Nice.
So that sounds like a lot of fun, right?
That does sound like fun, but
Nice.
Probably wouldn't be at all. I want to know about the G-rated movie he made out here, Josh.
I have not seen that. I mean, again, I've only seen a handful of his later films, but like I said, he was this kind of wholesome guy. And I think he probably would have loved the opportunity to do more than just make, exploitation grindhouse type movies or whatever. I think Heart of a Boy, is that the movie you're thinking of? Yeah.
That is what I am thinking of.
From 2006. So, I don't know much about that one. I haven't seen it, but I'm sure it's bad. Because all of his movies are bad. But he kept going. I have seen Corpse Grinders 3, which Ted Michaels did not direct. And this is part of what I was saying in terms of his support. He basically licensed this to some filmmakers from Spain who were interested. There were fans and they wanted to make their own Corpse Grinders movie. So in 2013, he licensed the Corpse Grinders concept and he was credited as a producer. And that is the one I was looking it up. I saw that at VIFF in 2013. They showed Corpse Grinders.
And how was that one, Josh?
It was bad. It was bad. Those guys did not know any better than Ted Mikels about how to make a movie.
Yeah, because Spain obviously has a storied history of horror films and grindhouse type fare. So I was hoping that it would be like two, young filmmakers like we could really put this franchise on track, and did not. Though.
No, I don't remember much about it, but I did look up my write-up from that festival, and I mentioned that apparently, it was made in Spain by these Spanish filmmakers, but presumably the one requirement was that it had to be in English. So it's full of people who don't really speak very good English trying to deliver English language dialogue.
Sounds awesome. I'm going to watch it.
Dave needs to have a marathon of all this stuff.
No. We already have Dave on the Embalmer and the Undertaker and his pals. So that's what he's got to get done for us first. So.
All right.
Yeah. So again, Ted Mikels, long career. In the 70s, he was big with Astro Zombies. I mentioned Blood Orgy of the She-Devils. The Doll Squad was another big one for him. 10 Violent Women. And he moved to Vegas in 86, founded his studio, worked here through the 90s, and all the way through 2016 when he passed away. And you mentioned, Jason, our friend Drew Marvick, a great local horror filmmaker. And allegedly, Drew is supposed to be finishing 10 Violent Women Part 2, which was the final film that Ted Mikels was working on.
20 Violent Women?
Yeah, it's just called 10 Violent Women Part 2. But I was looking, I've interviewed Drew several times, and every time I've interviewed him, starting with the obituary for Ted Mikels that I wrote, he said, I'm planning to finish 10 Violent Women Part 2. And the last time I talked to him was, I think, in 2021, when he still claimed that was on his list of projects, but it has not happened.
Well, has he even completed Pool Party Massacre 2 yet?
I believe they shot Pool Party Massacre 2. He did like a crowdfunding campaign for it. So I think that is coming.
He does very good cooking videos.
Fantastic. Maybe we can get an update on this for the epilogue, though, from Drew.
Yeah.
So Josh, just I'll run through this real fast because there's really not much to run through. Co-writer Arch Hall is the subject of a film, The Last Time I Saw Archie, based on his Air Force experience, and it starred Robert Mitchum. Arch sued the filmmaker, who was a fellow military member, saying that he was being exploited, but the entire lawsuit was an actually exploitation for them to get more attention on the movie. So how about that?
That's perfect. Gimmickry upon gimmickry. I like it.
Yeah. Joel Cranston, who co-wrote it, is Bryan Cranston's dad.
Yeah, Joseph Cranston, I think it is.
Okay. And Sean Kenney, one of the actors, played Christopher Pike in Star Trek. That's all the research I was able to get on this thing.
Yeah, Sean Kenney, he plays the doctor here, who's the investigating things. And he is really the only actor in this cast who had any kind of a career. Everyone else that I looked up has just maybe one or two additional credits around this period. But he wasn't the main actor to play Christopher Pike. He played like a mangled, disabled version of the character. And I loved looking at his IMDb, though, because like everyone else, he has like a few credits for the next few years. And according to Wikipedia, he then became a photographer. But if you look on IMDb, he stopped acting in 1976 and then returned after a 40-year break in 2016, and since 2016 now has a bunch of credits in these kind of low budget, nothing type films. So I wonder if after all these years later, someone was like, we got to get the Corpse Grinders guy in our low budget movie, and they found him and he started acting again. It's kind of endearing.
He's the Julie Christie of this genre, perhaps. Hear me out, guys. Here's the plot of the movie we're going to do. Right, old sickly record store owner who has given his life to the business, has a son who doesn't appreciate everything his father's done for him. His son, much like in a Shakespearean play, just wants to off his dad, but he can't, and take over the business, but he can't just off his dad. So he trains his cats to terrorize said father so he can take over the record store.
Jason really digging into the lore of Wax Trax Records here.
I thought you were going to say I was going to kill him and get him pressed into a record. And then
see, what a workshopping session! We've already done that. It can't be worse than the Pup-Ups.
That was the plot of an episode of Poker Face.
Wow!
Somebody was pressed into a record, and it was a clue to solving the mystery. So
puzzle pieces everywhere.
It's been done.
Yeah.
Jason,
that's impressive.
Oh, anything else you want to add about the legacy of the Corpse Grinders?
Fuck no.
All right. Well, that's the Corpse Grinders, and that is this episode of Awesome Movie Year. You can grind our corpses online and on social media.
Grind our gears at awesomemovieyear.com. Awesome Movie Year on Facebook and Instagram. Of course, if you're on Letterboxd and you watch this film, I don't know why you would, or any other tag Awesome Movie Year, I'm Gopher Jason, #1 Letterboxd account. Now moving into Venezuela because the good people there need something uplifting for them at this point in time. You can find me on all the socials, Jason Harris Comedy or J Harris Comedy, and Josh, the Trivia Party, also on Instagram, going strong. Come out to a trivia night. We talk about we have a lot of movie questions.
Yeah, maybe you can add a Corpse Grinders question to your next trivia night, and no one.
I don't think anyone would know it. Yeah, no one would get it.
We should do that anyway. You can find some old things from me at joshbellhateseverything.com, possibly some Ted Mikels mentions there. I'm at Josh Bell Hates Everything on Facebook, at Signal Bleed, on Blue Sky, and on Letterboxd. And you can check out our producer, David Rosen's awesome podcast, Piecing It Together.
Check out Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on social media at Piecing Pod. And don't forget to join our Patreon, the Produced by David Rosen Patreon, where I post bonus and advanced content from Piecing It Together, from Awesome Movie Year, and from my music career. And I was going to mention something I completely forgot about. Speaking of Polygrind, which we brought up a couple of times on this show, I did the theme song for Polygrind back then and name checked Ted V. Mikels. But also, before I really knew Josh, I said the line, "You better hope that your film doesn't get trashed by Josh Bell."
Excellent.
And his film just got trashed by Josh Bell.
Can you play that song as the outro to this episode?
I will do that, and I'll throw it on the Patreon too. So yes.
Excellent. Fantastic.
Yeah. Check out that. We'll have a bonus episode. We're coming toward the end of this season, so you'll have a 1971 bonus to look forward to. But before then, Jason, what's in our next episode?
Josh, you said this could have been our cult classic, but that's a lie, Josh, because we have the ultimate cult classic from 1971, Billy Jack.
So tune in next time for Billy Jack, and thanks for listening to Awesome Movie Year.
Thank you for listening to Awesome Movie Year. Make sure to follow Awesome Movie Year on Facebook, at Awesome Movie Pod on Twitter, and at Awesome Movie Year on Instagram. And if you like the show, review us and rate us with 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.
Life is hard. Sometimes in order to get what you want, you gotta get your hands a little dirty and hustle for what's yours. And sometimes you have to take a stand for what's right. When nobody's watching out for you, you gotta watch out for yourself. And sometimes you gotta get even dirtier when there's no getting around it. And that time is right now. It's time to grind. Hustle, fight, grind. It's time for polygrind, time for polygrind, time to hustle, fight, grind. It's time for polygrind, time for polygrind, time to hustle, fight, grind. It's time for polygrind, time for polygrind, time to hustle, fight, grind. It's time for polygrind. Ever since H.D. Lewis was splattering, skulls were shattering, Doris Wishman was pushing buttons, they were on to something. Individuality, diversity, and creativity is what we need. And now we're gonna get a film festival of a different breed, with Ted V. Mikels and the rest of the infamous psychos. Him, her, and what's her name, all getting down playing the buddy game. Lloyd Kaufman, Robin Leach, and Jack Clinton Freeman. Answer your phone during the screen and get eaten by a demon. Or Markovitz, Garvey, it's Polly Staffel. You only keep your soul if you win a next raffle. Theater 7 is a spot where all this madness is happening. Drive down 3rd, it looks like a zombie gathering with screams like a scene straight out of hell. Better hope that your film doesn't get trashed by Josh Bell. Fight, grind, it's time for polygrind, time for polygrind, time to hustle. Fight, grind, it's time for polygrind, time for polygrind, time to hustle. Fight, grind, it's time for polygrind, time for polygrind, time to hustle. Fight, grind, it's time for polygrind.
this is a zombie palooza. The outcast go blast with a big ass bazooka. Screw the box, thinking outside the outside. We're different and original and full of pride. And she never do a day with the beats and flow. Got everybody praying, dear God, no. Dave provides a music time to random beats, screaming with lyrics to open up to resurrect the demon. It's time to grab some popcorn and open your mind. Sit back and relax, cause this is Polygrind. It's time to grab some popcorn and open your mind. Sit back and relax, cause this is Polygrind.